Fishing is a huge part of life in Juneau. In the spring, summer, and fall, the townspeople get out their boats and ply the waters for fat, Picasso-esque halibut and sleek-sided, ocean-bright salmon. In the winter, though, boats are stashed away under tarps and mounds of snow, and fishing takes on a different look. Friends head out onto frozen lakes, cut their way through the ice, and hope to bring up a fish before they themselves freeze solid onto their chairs. Here's how it works. First, you find a good spot. My friends and I went to the salt chuck by Amalga Harbor, where my local buddies thought we'd have a good chance of catching something. The lake was covered in a good foot of snow, and after we'd trudged out to our spot in the center, we got to work clearing an area for our chairs and gear. Fishing takes time and patience, and ice fishing is no different, so unless you plan on standing up all day, or sitting on the ice and freezing your ass off, it's a good idea to bring chairs. Once you've got your space cleared and your stuff set up, it's time to cut through the ice. Now, if you're smart, you bring an ice auger and you drill right through the ice in a jiffy. If you're us, you bring a hatchet and you chip away with it like a pair of demented backwoodsmen. We'd also seriously underestimated the amount of ice that there'd be, and we'd chipped through about a foot of it before we even hit water. Unfortunately, hitting water didn't necessarily mean we were through the ice. All it meant was that our hole now filled with water so cold it was hard to believe it was still liquid. So, now we were taking turns chipping away at the bottom of the hole, our arms up to our elbows in the freezing water. As you might imagine, all this chipping generates a fair amount of ice shavings, which have to be removed from the hole in order to see what you're doing. Necessity being the mother of invention, we retrofitted an empty beer can to suit the task. After about 45 more minutes of chipping, we'd gone through another 6 inches of ice, cut up our knuckles, frozen our hands, used up our collective vocabulary of curse words, and we still weren't through the damn ice. The hole was now deep enough that our hatchet was effectively useless, as you couldn't get a good swing in the tight space. The situation looked bleak until my friend Leon, who's also an Eagle Scout, hit upon the idea of hooking my knife onto the end of a stick and making a rudimentary spear to chip through the rest of the way. A few minutes later, we were holding an alder branch, bootlace, and pocket-knife spear, looking to all the world like a couple of latter-day Neanderthals bent on killing an icy mastodon. The thing actually worked, though, and mere moments later we finally broke through the ice. We spent another 10 minutes chipping around the edges with our spear to widen the hole before we were ready to put down our lines. It had only taken us an hour and a half. At this point, assuming that you're still in the mood to go fishing, it's time to set up your gear and bait your hook. We were using shrimp and salmon eggs as bait, so we loaded up our hooks and lowered them down somewhere between 5 and 15 feet underwater, jigging our poles up and down slowly and thinking fishy thoughts. I'm pretty sure I mentioned earlier that fishing takes time, for which reason we'd brought along a 6-pack of trusty Alaskan stout that, and here's a major benefit of ice fishing, was kept perfectly chilled in the snow nearby. Besides patience, another thing that fishing requires is luck, and ours, this particular day, seemed oriented not so much to the catching of fish as to the catching of rays, the winter sun blessing us with a warmth which, when added to the warmth provided by the beer, and the good conversation and company provided by friends, kept us in high spirits despite our inability to do anything more than feed the fish below. And that, to me, is the real point of ice fishing. It's getting out to enjoy a beautiful day with your friends, especially when it happens to be a sunny day in Juneau.